The observation deck of the Celestial Nexus hummed with the quiet tension of its alien occupants. Commander Alina Patel stood at parade rest, maintaining her composure while Ambassador Xylith's crystalline form shimmered with increasing agitation. Through the reinforced viewport, they watched as maintenance technician James Rodriguez performed what should have been a routine repair on the station's external cooling systems. The problem wasn't the repair itself. It was the massive void stalker coiled nearby, its iridescent scales reflecting the starlight as it observed James's every move. The creature had taken up residence near the cooling vents 2 cycles ago, and all previous attempts to remove it had ended in failure and several injuries. This is highly irregular. Xylith's harmonics vibrated with concern. The void stalker species has never shown anything but aggression toward other life forms. Your technician should evacuate immediately. Alina opened her mouth to agree, but what happened next left her speechless. The void stalker, a creature known for hunting ships through the darkness between stars, slowly extended its serpentine neck toward James. Instead of retreating, James looked up from his work and did the unthinkable. He reached out and gently patted the creature's snout. "Hey there, big fella," James's voice crackled through the observation deck's comm system. "You're just curious about what I'm doing, aren't you?" The void stalker's response defied millennia of documented behavior. It pressed its head further into James's hand, multiple eyes closing in what appeared to be pleasure. The creature's bioluminescent patterns shifted from aggressive reds to calm blues and purples. "Impossible," whispered Xylith, their crystalline structure vibrating at a frequency that indicated deep shock. "There must be some explanation. Perhaps your species secretes some unknown chemical compound." Before Alina could respond, the door to the observation deck slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Dr. Rani Kapoor, the station's xenobiologist, rushed in with a data tablet clutched in her hands. "Commander, Ambassador, you need to see this. We've been monitoring the Void Stalker's neural patterns through the station's sensors." The display showed a complex wave pattern that even Alina, with her limited scientific knowledge, could tell was unusual. "What are we looking at, Doctor?" "The creature's aggressive instincts are being completely suppressed, replaced by something akin to contentment. And look at this." Rani's fingers flew across the tablet, bringing up another set of readings. "These patterns match similar readings we've recorded from domesticated Earth species during positive human interaction." Outside, James had completed his repairs, but remained engaged with the Void Stalker, which had wrapped its massive body around the cooling unit in a way that somehow managed to avoid damaging any components. The creature now resembled nothing so much as an oversized cat lounging in a favorite spot. "Your species," Xylith turned their faceted sensory clusters toward Alina, "has never mentioned this ability in any of our diplomatic exchanges." Alina watched as James gave the Void Stalker one final pat before beginning his return journey to the airlock. The creature tracked his movement but made no aggressive moves. "To be honest, Ambassador, I don't think we realized it was unusual. Humans have always tried to befriend animals, even dangerous ones. It's just what we do." "Just what you do," Rani laughed softly. "Commander, do you realize what this means? The Void Stalkers have been a plague on interstellar shipping for centuries. No species has ever managed to communicate with them, let alone pacify them." "Perhaps," Xylith's voice took on the formal tone they used when making diplomatic pronouncements, "it is time to reevaluate humanity's role in the galactic community. Your species may possess capabilities we never suspected." As if to emphasize the point, the Void Stalker outside the window began emanating a low, rhythmic pulse of bioluminescence, a behavior never before recorded in the species. Through the comm, they could hear James humming an old Earth tune as he worked his way back to the airlock, completely unconcerned by the legendary predator that watched his departure with what could only be described as affection. "Dr. Kapoor," Alina said, still watching the scene outside, "I think we're going to need a comprehensive study of human-alien creature interactions. And Ambassador," she turned to Xylith, "I believe we should discuss expanding humanity's involvement in certain diplomatic situations." "Agreed," Xylith's crystalline form shimmered with excitement. Though I suspect we have only begun to understand the implications of what we've witnessed today, the galaxy may never be quite the same. The Void Stalker's peaceful blue glow continued to illuminate the observation deck, a testament to humanity's most unexpected gift to the universe. The simple, powerful ability to make friends with anything that crossed their path, no matter how dangerous it might seem to others. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with an energy not seen in centuries. Holographic displays showed footage of James Rodriguez's interaction with the Void Stalker, while Ambassador Xylith addressed the assembled representatives of 50 alien species. Commander Alina Patel stood at attention beside Dr. Rani Kapoor, both women acutely aware that humanity's role in the galaxy might change forever based on what happened in the next few hours. The evidence is undeniable. Xylith's crystalline form sparkled under the chamber's lights. Humans possess an unprecedented ability to pacify dangerous creatures through physical contact and behavioral bonding. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic communications. A massive Jovian representative, Supreme Thought Leader Zix, floated forward in their containment field. This is one isolated incident, hardly enough to base policy changes on. Dr. Kapoor stepped forward, her tablet projecting new data into the chamber's shared space. With respect, Supreme Thought Leader, we've documented 17 additional cases in just the past month. Allow me to present Exhibit B. The footage shifted to show Marcus Wung, a botanical researcher, calmly scratching behind the sensory stalks of a Nephilian acid worm. The creature, known for dissolving entire research stations with its corrosive secretions, was writhing in apparent pleasure. The worm's biochemical analysis showed a complete cessation of acid production during human contact, Rani explained. More importantly, the effect persisted for several hours afterward, suggesting a lasting psychological impact. A Meridian Council member, their liquid metal form rippling with skepticism, spoke next. And what of the risks? Surely we cannot expect humans to endanger themselves by attempting to pet every dangerous creature they encounter. Alina suppressed a smile, knowing what was coming next. Dr. Kapoor switched to another recording, this one showing various humans aboard the Celestial Nexus approaching different alien species. Actually, we've had to implement protocols to prevent exactly that. Humans, it seems, have an almost irresistible urge to attempt physical contact with any creature they deem, and I quote, potentially cute. The chamber filled with confused murmuring as various species attempted to process the concept of finding dangerous predators cute. Xylith raised their appendages for silence. We've developed what we're calling the touch protocol. Under controlled conditions, human specialists will be trained to approach and establish contact with previously unapproachable species. The next hologram showed the Celestial Nexus's new training facility. Through the windows, observers could see Olivia Chen, a newly recruited specialist, working with a juvenile quantum shade, a creature that existed partially in another dimension and had previously been considered impossible to study directly. Remarkable, breathed Supreme Thought Leader Zix. But what are the practical applications beyond scientific research? Alina stepped forward. If I may, Supreme Thought Leader, we've already identified 3 immediate applications. First, clearing dangerous creatures from shipping lanes and colonies without resorting to lethal methods. Second, establishing communication with species previously considered too dangerous to approach. And third, she paused for effect, diplomatic intervention in cases where protective creatures have prevented peaceful contact between species. The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. For millennia, numerous potentially peaceful first contact situations had ended in disaster because one or both species kept dangerous creatures as guards or companions. If humans could bypass these barriers. There's more, Dr. Kapoor added. We've discovered that the effect isn't limited to what we traditionally consider creatures. Watch this. The hologram showed James Rodriguez again, this time approaching what appeared to be a floating cloud of metallic particles. This is a collective intelligence composed of self-replicating nanomachines. Previous attempts to communicate with it led to defensive responses that damaged several research vessels. The assembled council members watched in amazement as James extended his hand into the cloud. The nanomachines swirled around his fingers in complex patterns before forming into a roughly humanoid shape that mimicked his wave. "They're learning from us," Rani explained. "The physical contact seems to facilitate a form of understanding we don't yet comprehend. The implications for communicating with non-biological intelligences are staggering." Xylith's crystalline form pulsed with excitement. "We propose the immediate establishment of a human contact division within the Galactic Council. All first contact situations involving potentially dangerous species would include human specialists trained in the touch protocol." As the council erupted in discussion, Alina leaned close to Dr. Kapoor. "Do you think they're ready to hear about what happened when that group of kindergartners visited the quantum physics lab?" Rani smiled and whispered back, "Let's save the story about 5-year-olds playing pat-a-cake with quantum probability clouds for another day. I think they've had enough surprises for one session." In the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity's strange affinity for befriending the dangerous and incomprehensible would become an official part of galactic diplomacy. As Alina looked around the chamber at the excited discussions breaking out among various species, she couldn't help but wonder what her ancestors would think, knowing that humanity's first major contribution to galactic civilization would be their inability to resist petting anything that moved, and quite a few things that didn't. The diplomatic vessel Harmony's touch approached the swirling crimson atmosphere of Nexus VII, its hull gleaming under the light of 3 suns. In the ship's preparation chamber, Senior Contact Specialist Wei Jackson adjusted his environmental suit while trying to ignore the nervous energy radiating from the alien diplomats behind him. "The crystalline hive has rejected every diplomatic mission for the past 3 centuries, Ambassador Xylith reminded him, their crystalline form flickering with anxiety. "Their guardian beasts have torn apart the finest diplomatic vessels ever constructed." Wei nodded while checking his suit's seals. "So I've heard, but those ships didn't have someone who could give proper belly rubs." His casual confidence made several of the alien diplomats emit their species' equivalent of nervous laughter. The ship's sensors had already detected the massive shapes circling their vessel, the infamous shadow leviathans of Nexus VII. Each creature was larger than the Harmony's touch itself, their bodies seeming to shift between solid matter and living darkness. Commander Alina Patel's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Contact Specialist Jackson, we're picking up aggressive posturing from the Leviathans. Are you certain about this approach?" "Absolutely, Commander," Wei replied, moving toward the airlock. "Dr. Kapoor's research suggests they're just big space puppies. Very big, very scary space puppies, but puppies nonetheless." The airlock cycled, and Wei stepped out onto the ship's external observation platform. The nearest shadow Leviathan immediately turned toward him, its form rippling with patterns that the ship's AI translated as threatening. Wei did what no other diplomat in 3 centuries had dared. He waved. "Hey there, beautiful," his calm voice carried through the comm system. "You're just doing your job, aren't you? Keeping everyone safe. That's a good guardian." The Leviathan paused, its patterns shifting from aggressive red to curious purple. Slowly, it moved closer to the platform, its massive form dwarfing Wei's suited figure. Back inside the ship, the diplomatic team held their breath. Wei reached out, his gloved hand seeming impossibly small against the creature's enormous form. The Leviathan, defying all known behavior patterns, gently pressed against his hand. Within moments, the beast's surface rippled with patterns of pleasure, and it rolled in space to expose its more vulnerable underside. "That's right," Wei cooed, using his suit's maneuvering jets to reach the optimal scratching position. "Who's a good cosmic horror? You are." The effect rippled through the gathered Leviathans. One by one, they approached the ship, their threatening postures melting away into curious, almost playful behavior. The ship's sensors recorded everything, documenting the unprecedented transformation. Dr. Rani Kapoor's voice crackled through the comm. "Wei, you're not going to believe this, but we're picking up synchronized neural patterns between the Leviathans. They're sharing the experience with each other." "Of course they are," Wei laughed as another Leviathan nudged him hopefully. Nobody wants to miss out on scratches. Within an hour, the Harmony's touch had a full escort of thoroughly pacified shadow Leviathans, guiding them toward the crystalline hive's central spire. The hive's initial transmission radiated confusion and disbelief. "You have tamed our guardians?" The collective consciousness of the hive seemed stunned. "How is this possible?" Ambassador Xylith stepped forward to handle the formal response. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council, and we present humanity's gift to the galaxy friendship." The diplomatic breakthrough that followed would be studied for generations. The crystalline hive, impressed by humanity's ability to connect with their beloved guardians, opened centuries of isolation. Trade routes that had been closed for hundreds of years reopened, and the shadow Leviathans were transformed from terrorizing sentinels to enthusiastic greeters of human-crewed vessels. Back on the Celestial Nexus, Commander Alina Patel updated the official record. "The Touch Protocol has achieved its 23rd diplomatic success. Recommendation: expand the Human Contact Division to include specialized training for space-based megafauna interactions." Dr. Kapoor added her own notes. "Preliminary analysis suggests that human affinity for dangerous creatures may have evolved as a survival trait on Earth. Further research needed to understand why this trait seems to work on species that humanity never encountered during its evolution." But perhaps the most telling addition to the record came from Wade Jackson himself. Day's summary: "Made friends with cosmic horror monsters. They like belly rubs just like Earth dogs. Universal Constant confirmed everything is petable if you're brave enough and have enough patience. Request permission to add scratch posts to future diplomatic vessel designs." As the Harmony's touch departed Nexus VII, escorted by happily frolicking shadow Leviathans, humanity's unique place in the galaxy was further cemented. They weren't the strongest, the most technologically advanced, or the most numerous species, but they were, without doubt, the galaxy's best friend-makers. Emergency alerts blared through the crowded corridors of the Galactic Hub Station, its 50 levels of diplomatic offices and research facilities in chaos. Commander Alina Patel's voice cut through the cacophony of warning signals. "All non-essential personnel, proceed to emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill." In the station's central control room, Dr. Rani Kapoor stared at the security feeds in horror. "The containment protocols in the Xenobiology Research Wing have failed completely. We have at least 30 different dangerous species loose in the station." The situation had spiraled out of control after a power surge disabled the quantum containment fields. Now, everything from void stalkers to shadow Leviathans roamed the station's corridors, their presence preventing evacuation of thousands of diplomatic staff and researchers. "Status report," Alina demanded, watching as a pack of Nephilian acid worms slithered through the hydroponics level. "It's worse than we thought," Rani replied, fingers flying over her console. "The creatures are agitated by each other's presence. Standard containment teams can't get close without triggering defensive responses. We have reports of quantum shades phasing entire rooms into parallel dimensions." Ambassador Xylith's crystalline form pulsed with urgent frequencies. "The Galactic Council is demanding immediate action if these creatures breach the station's hull. They'll escape into open space near the busiest diplomatic hub in the galaxy," Alina finished. "I know." She reached for her comm unit. "This is Commander Patel to all Human Contact Division personnel. Report to emergency stations immediately." Within minutes, Senior Specialist Wade Jackson and his team assembled in the control room. They had been conducting routine diplomatic missions when the crisis began. "We've got 14 human specialists on station," Wei reported. "What's the plan, Commander?" Alina pulled up a holographic map of the station. "We need to pacify and contain these creatures before they cause structural damage or hurt anyone. Dr. Kapoor has developed a temporary containment solution, but we need to calm them down first." "A station-wide petting zoo," Wei grinned. "Just another day at the office." The team split into pairs, each taking different sectors of the station. Wei and his partner, Specialist Priya Sharma, headed for the diplomatic sector where 3 Void stalkers had cornered a group of Meridian delegates. "Hey there, big fellows," Priya called out, causing the Void stalkers to turn their massive heads toward her. "Remember us, humanity's professional scratching service." The creature's aggressive postures softened slightly at her familiar tone. Wei moved forward slowly, hands raised. "That's right. No need for all this fuss. Who wants the special behind-the-ears scratch?" Across the station, similar scenes played out. Specialist Marcus Wung found himself giving belly rubs to a quantum shade, the creature's dimensional shifting stabilizing under his touch. In the hydroponics bay, Specialist Olivia Chen hummed an old Earth lullaby while gentling the agitated acid worms. But the real challenge came in the central atrium, where a juvenile shadow leviathan had become tangled in the station's decorative light sculptures. The creature's distress was causing it to phase between solid and shadow states, threatening the structural integrity of the entire level. "I need a direct line to Wei," Dr. Kapoor called out. "The Leviathan's neural patterns are completely chaotic if we don't calm it down soon." "Already on it," Wei's voice came through, slightly strained. He and Priya had managed to get the Void stalkers into a temporary holding area and were rushing to the atrium. "Commander, I need station-wide audio control." Elena nodded to her communications officer. "You have it, Specialist. What's your plan?" "Something crazy," Wei admitted. "Priya, remember that music festival we attended on Earth last month, the one with the bass you could feel in your bones?" Understanding dawned on Priya's face. "The vibrations. Shadow Leviathans communicate through dimensional resonance." Wei accessed the station's audio systems and began playing deep, rhythmic bass tones that made the entire level vibrate. The Shadow Leviathan's frantic movements slowed as it felt the familiar resonance patterns. When Wei approached, humming in harmony with the bass tones, the creature's form stabilized enough for him to make physical contact. "There we go," he soothed, running his hands along its now solid surface. "Just a little scared, weren't you? Let's get you untangled." Hour by hour, the Human Contact Division worked their way through the station. Each specialist drew on their experience and humanity's unique gift to calm and contain the loose creatures. Dr. Kapoor's team followed behind, establishing temporary containment fields once each being was pacified. In the control room, Elena watched the security feeds with Ambassador Xylith. "I never thought I'd see a shadow Leviathan cuddling," the crystalline diplomat remarked. "Humanity's greatest diplomatic weapon," Elena smiled. "An infinite capacity for treating the universe's most dangerous creatures like oversized pets." When the all-clear finally sounded, the station had suffered surprisingly minimal damage. More importantly, not a single life had been lost. The Human Contact Division had proven their worth not just as diplomatic aides, but as essential emergency responders. As Wei filed his report later that day, he couldn't help adding a personal note. "Incident proves yet again, there's no problem in the galaxy that can't be solved with the proper application of pets and belly rubs." Requesting additional scratch posts be installed throughout the station as preventative measure for future emergencies. 1 year after the Nexus crisis, the Galactic Hub Station had been transformed. The once sterile diplomatic corridors now featured specialized interaction zones where trained human specialists worked alongside some of the galaxy's most feared creatures. Shadow Leviathans patrolled the station's exterior as voluntary security guards, while domesticated Void stalkers helped maintenance crews navigate the station's complex external structure. Commander Elena Patel stood in the newly constructed Interspecies Connection Center, watching as a class of alien diplomats observed Senior Specialist Wei Jackson conducting a training session. A juvenile quantum shade floated nearby, its dimensional shifting creating beautiful patterns in the air as Wei demonstrated proper interaction techniques. "Remember," Wei explained to his attentive audience, "every species has its own comfort zones and preferences. The key isn't just physical contact, it's about projecting calm and genuine affection. These beings can sense your intentions." Dr. Rani Kapoor approached, her tablet displaying complex neural scanning data. The latest research results are fascinating, Commander. We've isolated what we're calling the human connection factor, a unique combination of electromagnetic field patterns, pheromones, and what appears to be a previously unknown quantum resonance effect. In other words, Elena smiled, science is finally catching up to what every human child knows instinctively: everything wants to be loved. Ambassador Xylith joined them, their crystalline form shimmering with excitement. The Galactic Council has just approved the expansion of the Human Contact Division. We're establishing training centers on 12 major worlds. The impact of humanity's gift had rippled through galactic society. Species that had been feared and hunted for centuries were now being understood and integrated into galactic civilization. The Nephilian acid worms, once considered pure menace, were helping terraform hostile planets. Quantum Shades worked with scientists to explore parallel dimensions safely. Specialist Priya Sharma entered the center, followed by a group of excited human trainees. "And here we have the advanced interaction area," she explained. "Once you've mastered the basics, you'll learn to work with multiple species simultaneously." As if on cue, a shadow leviathan phased partially through the ceiling, its massive form radiating contentment as it watched the proceedings. A pair of void stalkers lounged nearby, their iridescent scales reflecting the station's lights as they played with enrichment toys designed by the human engineering team. "The universe has changed," Elena mused, watching the scene. "Not through military might or technological superiority, but through humanity's stubborn insistence on befriending everything they meet." Dr. Kapoor nodded, reviewing more data on her tablet. "We've documented over 300 species previously classified as untamable, now actively seeking human interaction. The crystalline hive has even started broadcasting what they call pet request signals when they want human visitors." "Speaking of which," Wei called out from his training session, "has anyone seen Mr. Sparkles? The quantum probability cloud was here a minute ago." "Check the relaxation corner," Priya suggested. "He likes to watch the fish tank." Sure enough, the living cloud of quantum uncertainty had gathered around the tank of bioluminescent Jovian fish, its particles swirling in patterns that mimicked their movements. One of the new trainees was already approaching with appropriate caution, hand extended. "The galaxy feared them," Ambassador Xylith observed, "until humans taught us to love them. Your species has given us all a great gift, the ability to see beauty and potential friendship in what we once feared." A commotion at the center's entrance drew their attention. A delegation of Meridian diplomats had arrived with an urgent request. They had discovered a new species in their home system, massive energy beings that had destroyed 2 research vessels out of fear. "Don't worry," Elena assured them, already sending out alerts to her human team. "We have just the right people for the job." As Wei gathered his gear for the new mission, he paused to give the shadow Leviathan one last scratch. "Hold down the fort, big guy. We've got more friends to make." The creature's response rumbled through the station's structure, a sound that would have once inspired terror, but now carried only warmth and affection. In the years to come, historians would mark this period as the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. They called it the Age of Connection, when humanity's greatest contribution to the universe turned out to be something so simple, yet so profound: the ability to see past appearances and find the heart of every being, no matter how strange or frightening they might seem. After all, as Wei liked to tell his trainees, in an infinite universe, there's an infinite number of beings waiting for their first belly rub. We've got a lot of work to do. And so humanity continued its mission, one gentle touch at a time, transforming the galaxy not through force or fear, but through the simple, powerful magic of unconditional friendship and a really good scratch behind the ears, wherever those ears might be.